Hey guys, it's Carl, and I've been using the Tab S8 Ultra now for the past couple weeks, and I've loved it so much that I've fully made the switch over. I've changed from my iPad Pro, which is collecting dust, and using this as my sole tablet, and I think Samsung did a really awesome job on this. And I'm even willing to say this is the best tablet experience right now. There's a couple compromises which we'll get to in a second, but before we start, gotta give a huge shout outs to Best Buy for sponsoring this episode. If you wanna pick up the Tab S8 Ultra, or even any of the other Samsung stuff that dropped in the past couple weeks, links down below. You can grab it and let's kind of get into it. And I know that I've compared it in a previous video, but because I've used it more over the past couple weeks, I kind of have a better sense of how it performs. You can see I was actually just holding it up on that hard drive. There of course is no kickstand, and it is a very large device. This is one of the largest tablets that you can get right now. So the display, 14.6 inches on an AMOLED panel. It isn't Quad HD, it isn't 4K. It doesn't get up to the same nip brightness as say the iPad Pro, but for a panel or for a tablet of this size, I think this should be used at home. It shouldn't be something that you throw in your bag, carry around. It is a bit too big for that. And for an at-home tablet, this is really meant for media consumption, using it with the S Pen, using and utilizing this beautiful display. You have so much screen real estate on this. So when you connect it to an external Bluetooth keyboard, if you have one of those case combos with it, if you use it as a second screen for your PC, which we'll get to later on, you can easily have half the screen or even 3/4 dedicated to content, and the other half still more than enough room to still jot down notes, to type out emails, to multitask, to stay productive. The screen real estate on this is super, super nice. The screen refresh rate is 120 Hertz. It isn't the same as the S22 Ultra where you get all the way from 1 to 120. The experience on it is really fluid, really quick, really snappy. It is actually running very similar internals to the mobile device. It is rocking the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 platform, and you have a couple different options for RAM sizes. You can grab either 8, 12, or 16. This exact spec is the one in the middle, and of course those storage size options vary according to the RAM size. But the nice thing, unlike the S22 Ultra, you can stick a micro SD card in this, and I love that Samsung still has that for their tablet line, and I'm really confused why they still don't continue it in their phone line. So if you want to increase the storage option, which I think a lot of people are still dying for in tablets, it's still something that we thankfully still have, and I think that just increases the longevity of the device overall. The rest of the hardware of the device, the design, is something that you'd expect from Samsung. It's super premium. I think it's one of the best looking tablets. Of course, you've got a couple different color options for the back. You can see though, it is a bit of a fingerprint magnet if you do get one of the darker color options. Because of that aluminum, you can see in the past couple weeks how many fingerprints I've collected on mine, but I think most people will just grab a case for it. Around to the front, like I mentioned, one of the best displays, razor thin bezels as it should be for a modern device, and I was initially on the fence about a notch on a tablet, and Samsung themselves tweeted laughing at Apple for having a notch on their iPhones, but I was thrown off. I've kind of gotten used to it actually, and I do actually prefer the placement of this over a portrait front-facing camera. Typically when I'm using this as a productivity device, I've got it propped up in landscape mode. I'm using a keyboard and mouse combo. When I hop on Zoom or Teams calls, the placement of that camera on most tablets is somewhere at the front. Having it centered is just way better. It's got the two 12 megapixel cameras, either wide or ultra wide, and it does record in 4K. Unfortunately, there is no optical image stabilization, so if you are recording a call like this, it could be a little bit jittery, but I think, like I said, most people will have this planted, either choosing between wide or that ultra wide setting. The video looks really good for a tablet. And when you consider most tablets and even laptops in general still have 720p cameras, I think this looks really good. And it also does have the new auto framing feature. So when you are in frame, we'll kind of select this here. This will help record and prioritize who's in frame and should technically follow you around. And it just works well enough. To a feature which I think is a selling point on its own for this tablet is the S Pen. So first off, you get this in the box with any Tab S8 that you grab. That's already a +1 over any iPad, since you typically have to buy the Apple Pencil or Apple Pencil 2 for either $100 or $129 respectively. And I could even argue that the S Pen experience is the best stylus experience on a tablet. It is personal preference, the rubber tip of the S Pen, but the latency on this has gone down. Bit of confusion on my last video, but it is now 2.8 milliseconds, and you compare that to the iPad experience, which is 9. It does that with a bit of predictive AI built in, and it's almost instantaneous and feels like the closest writing experience to actual paper. So I think a lot of artists, not that I'm one, my art definitely sucks, or students that like to jot down notes will fully utilize this. There are a ton of great apps over on the Google Play Store, and even the Samsung Notes app is one of the best note-taking apps that I've used. One little irk though that I have found, theoretically you can place the S Pen on top. It does snap lightly, but the only real place to charge it is on the back. When you are using the tablet and want to place it on the back, it isn't really as natural, and you kind of have to look over and physically place the S Pen because you can't see it. If you're just blindly trying to place the S Pen, it's always tough to really nail the exact spot. Maybe I have to use it a bit more to get used to it. More things that I love, the speaker experience, and that kind of leads back to media consumption when you're watching content. The speakers on this are great. They're AKG tuned. And lastly, the main and maybe the most important reason switching to this tablet over, say, the iPad, I think iPad OS is still super limited. I always feel like it's just a blown up version of an iPhone. And when you look at iPad OS's keynote, one of the key things that they said was you can get widgets on an iPad. And I thought that was a bit ridiculous, and I think the versatility of this tablet makes it better. So you do have Samsung DeX in its own, which gives you a laptop-ish like experience, just being more productive and actually doing real multitasking, and you can even use this as a secondary device or secondary display on any Windows device. Battery life, I am averaging around 8.5 to 9 hours depending on what I'm doing, and you do have an 11,200 milliamp hour battery. I would recommend grabbing a fast charger for this, something at least 45 watts. If you do hook this up to, say, a 5-watt charger from your phone, it will take forever to charge. And overall, it's just been a really solid tablet, and the pre-orders kind of show that. A lot of them are already sold out. So remember, links of this are down below. And the last thing around the performance of this, I actually have been using this a ton to do Xbox cloud gaming, which has been great, and even mobile-based games. The palm rejection is something that I really noticed has been good. Even with these razor thin edges or bezels, you do get some pretty decent palm rejection. And overall, yeah, I think this will be a lot of people's main premium tablet choice for the foreseeable future, especially because Samsung did miss out from the Tab S7. I think we waited around 2 years. So until the Tab S9 drops, I think a lot of people will just be using this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this full review and why I made the switch. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next ones. Peace.